What if I told you that this man, who's claiming to have a net worth of over $300 million, doesn't actually own all this money, but is just the face of something way bigger, and he's just a puppet of a powerful, terrifying network of rich elites pulling the strings from the shadows? You wouldn't believe me at first, because nothing about Alex Hormozi screams conspiracy. Not flashy. Not loud. He doesn't drive Bugattis through Dubai or show off stacks of cash. No rented jets, no crypto pumps, just flannel shirts, a thick mustache, and really long YouTube videos. But something about him feels off. Too clean, too calculated, too perfect. Because if you really look past the gym bro persona and the free value videos, you'll find a business empire that makes almost no sense on paper. He's a guy who says he gives away everything for free. No monetization, no courses, no coaching packages, just content. Yet somehow, that content makes him richer than 99% of entrepreneurs who do sell things. So how is that possible? This is not just a story about a smart businessman. This is a story about what might be the smartest illusion on the internet. A carefully designed system built to hide the real empire, to hide the money machine behind the curtain, and the elites who don't want you to know how it actually works. Because once you start investigating deep, everything unravels. Let's start at the surface. The official story. The one he tells in podcasts and books. Born into a strict Iranian-American household. Worked hard. Went to Vanderbilt. Got obsessed with fitness. Opened a gym. Almost went broke. Then figured out how to sell results instead of reps. That part is real. What he doesn't talk about is how fast the money came after that. He went from sleeping on the floor of a gym to building a company that generated over $30 million in just a few years. And that company, named Gym Launch, didn't just make money, it built a reputation. Alex was suddenly the guy who turned failing gyms into profit machines overnight. But then he did something strange. He sold the company and disappeared. He went offline, full dark mode, just as his brand was exploding. For 2 years, nothing. No updates, no coaching, no offers. And just when people assumed he retired with his millions, he came back. But this time with something different, something way bigger. A company called acquisition.com. He said it was a holding company, just him and his wife investing in businesses and helping them grow. But the way it was presented felt more like a front. No clear structure, no team page, no clients listed. Just vague talk about helping founders scale, and a lot of content about systems, offers, and mindset. Yet somehow, according to him, it was making over $100 million. Let that sink in. No services, no products, and no customers he could point to. Just investments in content. And here's where it gets really weird. He started posting again. Not just random uploads, highly produced, surgically crafted videos, cinematic lighting, professional edits, and seamless sound design. It was like mini Netflix episodes. And all of it was free. No sales funnel, no upsell, and no email capture, just value. Think about that for a second. How many millionaires do you know who drop hour-long lectures on YouTube for free with no clear return? And not just 1 or 2 videos, dozens. It's like someone gave him a blank check and said, here, make yourself the most trusted business face on the internet. Which raised the real question, who's writing the check? Because what if Hormozi isn't just doing this out of goodwill? What if this is all part of a bigger play? What if the real goal isn't to educate, but to attract? Let's zoom out. Acquisition.com doesn't make money from viewers. It makes money from founders. Every time Alex posts a video that helps someone make their first 100 grand, that person becomes a fan, then a follower, then a prospect. Eventually, they want to partner with Alex, give him equity, and ask for his guidance. And that's when Acquisition.com steps in. It's not a funnel, it's a filter. Alex doesn't sell to beginners. He waits until they become worthy. Then he takes a piece of their company, and he does this again and again and again. By the time you realize what just happened, you're in too deep. Because that's the genius of it all. You feel like it was your idea. You watched his content, you took notes, you got results, you reached out. He didn't sell you anything, but somehow you're now in business with him, and he owns a significant slice of your company. It's brilliant, but also terrifying. Because if this system can scale, which it already has, then it becomes a machine that prints money without ever touching a customer and without having any risks themselves. But here's where the Reddit conspiracy really starts to take shape. Who else benefits? Because building this kind of machine with production teams, media editors, deal structuring, legal teams, and onboarding systems, it's not cheap, to say the least. We're talking millions in back-end infrastructure every year. And if you look closely, there's no way just 2 people are running all this. So who's funding it? Some insiders believe acquisition.com is just a front, that behind it is a network of anonymous investors, a silent syndicate, using Alex's face as a trusted gateway to absorb companies. Think about it like a media-shaped magnet. He builds attention. That attention becomes loyalty. That loyalty becomes access, and that access becomes ownership. And what's even crazier is that the more trust he builds, the more invisible the transaction becomes. There's no hard sell, no negotiations, just a smiling founder giving away 30% equity in exchange for help from the Alex Hormozi, and maybe that help is real. Maybe those businesses grow. But now ask yourself this: what happens when someone owns minority stakes in 50 companies? What happens when those companies succeed and that wealth gets recycled into new investments, new media, new attention? 30% equity in a company is not just a minority stake. It's a big stake, which makes Alex and his team very influential in all these companies. There are whispers and quite some Reddit threads that say Hormozi's empire isn't just self-made, it's backed by real power. Private equity giants, Silicon Valley insiders, political money, and maybe even groups of elites that the normal people like you and me don't know. And what is a better way to cover than through a humble, trustworthy, no-nonsense businessman who just wants to help? It's the perfect mask. And every mask hides something. We know what you're thinking. Come on, not Alex. Not the flannel-wearing, value-dropping, soft-spoken nice guy from YouTube. He's too humble, too helpful, too grounded. Honestly, we agree. He doesn't come off like the puppet of the elite. He feels real, calculated, sure, but not fake. If anything, he seems like the one guy in the space who actually cares. But here's the twist. That's exactly why the conspiracy theories are growing. They're saying his rise was too perfect, his brand too clean, his access too effortless, and that maybe, just maybe, Hormozi isn't the whole story. That behind the systems and the stoic delivery, there's a hidden machine. And Alex, he's just the friendly face on the front of it. We're not saying we buy into that. We want to believe he's the real deal. But people online, they're not so sure anymore. Some people say Alex Hormozi is the ultimate marketer. Others think he's the ultimate manipulator. But maybe he's neither. Maybe he's the perfect front. The face of a syndicate designed to own as much of the entrepreneur economy as possible without anyone noticing. Because once he owns a slice of enough companies across health, wellness, SaaS, education, he can influence entire markets quietly and systematically, all under the banner of helping and being the good guy. And here's the final twist. He tells you everything. The strategies, the mindset, the systems, the books, the frameworks, you just have to piece it together. Because like any great illusionist, the trick isn't in what he hides. It's in what he shows you so loudly that you miss what's actually going on. So let me ask you again. How does Alex Hormozi actually make his money? From value? From content? From ownership? Or is it something deeper? Something you were never meant to see? Something hidden behind the flannel, behind the mustache, behind the story? Because if the front is this impressive, imagine what's behind the door. And if you never find it, that's exactly how they designed it. So what do you think? Is this just a brilliant entrepreneur doing things right, or is there something deeper going on? And if it's not Alex, then who? Who else feels just a little too perfect? Drop it in the comments. Let's see who's really pulling the strings. Check our YouTube channel for more stories like this. The ones that dig deeper, ask the uncomfortable questions, and follow the money when things stop adding up. Don't forget to subscribe to see our next investigations, and make sure to tell us in the comments, who should we investigate next? See you next time. Peace.